Joining me right now, Democratic strategist Jessica Tarlov, along with Fox News contributor Mercedes Schlapp. Good to have you guys here.
Hey, Trish.
Hello. Hey, Jessica, I'm going to start with you. 3%. You know, it's not asking for the moon. And if you ask me, given the tax policy, the lack of tax policy, the lack of economic policy we've had in place over the last 8 years, if you start to actually put something meaningful in there, you just, by God darn it, might get that 3%.
I guess you might, but you also might not, and there's a higher likelihood that you wouldn't. I mean, this budget relies on the fact that the AHCA is going to get passed, and that's really unclear at this point. It includes that $800 billion slash to Medicaid, which is another way of taking away an entitlement program. I mean, Donald Trump was very clear that he didn't want to take Social Security or Medicare, but going after Medicaid seems fine to him. Also, disability insurance, food stamps. I think that when people, especially when you consider who his base is, are thinking, oh, you're spending $1.6 billion on the wall, but you're taking away food stamps, disability assistance, lots of other cultural programs.
So $1.6 billion on the wall actually puts people to work, so they'll be building the wall.
I mean,
it's a weird kind of stimulus.
Rail against infrastructure. I mean, if you think that everybody who's going to lose entitlements is then going to go work on the wall, it's a stretch.
No, but these entitlements, I mean, part of the problem with these entitlements is that they have just gotten so out of control, Mercedes, that I start to question. When you look at 1 in 20 Americans right now on disability, it's almost as though we're paying a large group of people not to work. When you think of how food stamps have ballooned, I mean, what has happened to our society that this many people need a handout from Uncle Sam?
Well, here's the deal, and to Jessica's point, Donald Trump is not taking away these programs. This is called slowing down the growth, for example, of Medicaid over the next 10 years, and also actually passing the burden over to the states, where the states, who have much more in contact with their local communities, can define what programs work best for them. But this is also a question of breaking the cycle of dependency, which I think is something that we saw actually during the time that President Bill Clinton was in office, where he worked with Speaker Newt Gingrich to pass welfare reform. We need to have innovation in these areas where we are able to have able working men get off of welfare and not stay on for prolonged period of time, men and women. You know, the other thing is with food stamps, to ensure that you're able to ensure that there's no fraud. I mean, that we have review of these programs and not redundant programs. And so how do you get these 42 million individuals who are dependent on food stamps to get to a point that if you have economic growth in America, if you do get to that 3%, which I remember when President Reagan, you know, passed the tax cuts, it was very clear that we saw 4% growth here.
You know, Reagan's budget director said this isn't going to work.
We're building this economic environment here.
Reasons,
we live in a political world right now. And, Mercedes,
you've got to build this environment, this business-friendly environment, where you promote economic growth, and you will see revenues go up, and you will see our GDP grow up, and that in all benefits all Americans.
Look, and I would just say, you know, you got a situation right now where it's simply not sustainable. You've got the top 20% paying 87% of all tax revenue. So in other words, this is something that it's not, when you think about what this country was founded on, the principles of who we are as Americans, you should be able to work hard and you should be able to keep what you earn. And it shouldn't be all going as some kind of transfer to someone else. We should have programs in place that help those people that want to work, to help them be successful. And what is wrong with that, Jessica?
Nothing is wrong with that, and I actually am one of the Democrats who thinks that we can dabble in some means testing. There are people who are on welfare in these programs that shouldn't be, but these are blunt cuts. They're not precise at all, and I would just also add that it relies on seeing 206 months of continuous growth and without going into a recession, which has never happened in American history. I mean, this isn't just asking for, you know, a little jump here. It's really asking for the moon, as you put it in the beginning. And also, I mean, going back to what I said about Reagan's budget director, John McCain also said this is dead on arrival. People, Mercedes, can say what she wants
that's a political thing. I mean, here's the problem in Washington right now. You got a swamp you got to deal with, and everybody's got their hand out looking for something.
That's
so, you know, if you're in a state that relies on farm subsidies, you don't like this because the farm subsidies are going to get cut, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the political reality, unfortunately, of all of this. A challenging environment for sure for him. But I'll tell you, we got to start getting the spending under control somehow, some way.
But
Jessica, Mercedes, I'm afraid I got to leave it there. Thank you very much.